Shalom Israel, shalom, shalom. Brother Benjamin Youngwolf, back with another video. Of course, I want to give all praise to Yahweh, by Shema Mashiach Komlak Yahushai, Yahweh who the world ignorantly calls God, and Yahweh Shai who the world ignorantly called Jesus Christ. Right? Shabbat Shalom to the church of Israel scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, right? Especially those who are keeping the Sabbath day, right? The Lord's holiday, right? Praying, studying, making videos, going out there, shaking the hand, preaching the word, right, to the lordship of the house of Israel, and doing all that they could do to magnify the name of Yahweh by Hashem HaMashiach Yahushua in his last days. Right, Shabbat Shalom to the church house, all praise to Yahweh for letting us see another day in the land of the living, another day of repenting, examining ourselves, another day of rest, another Shabbat, all praise to Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Komlak Yahushai for this day, right? So first, so like it's a Shabbat lesson. Stop doing what you want on the Lord's Shabbat, right? Stop doing what you want on the Lord's day, right? Because what the Sabbath is a holy day, right? So we're gonna get through scriptures on that through the spirit and power of Yahweh by Shema Mashiach Komlak Yahushai, right? Hopefully, brothers are praying, fasting, studying, do all that they could do, praying for one another, giving alms, um, hanging around righteous brothers more, right? Reading, praying, fasting, checking on brothers, doing all that they could do in these last days, no matter all that we go through. But always remember, we have to do what we gotta do to inherit the kingdom of Yahweh by Shem Yahushua, right? So first, let's go to the book. Let's go. Salakia. Let's go to the book of Leviticus. Salakia. Salakia, bear with me 1 second. Salakia. Right. Shabbat Shalom. Peace and blessings to the brothers and sisters out there doing the work in these last days, right? Enduring to the end. No matter what they're going through, whether it be at work, their household, out there in the world, no matter what, still serve Yahweh Bashim Yahusha. Alright? Salakia. Okay. So first is book. Salakia, bear with me 1 second. First, let's go to the book of Exodus chapter. Let's go start with the classic. Exodus chapter 20. Right? I'm gonna kick it off with Exodus chapter 20. Salakia. Okay. This is the This is the book of Exodus, chapter say, right? Like we want to keep that day is separated, is the week, the ordinary days, right? I mean the regular days, Salakia, right? Right, from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? And Friday before the sun goes down, and Sunday, right? What you do on those days, you don't do it on the Lord's day, right? On the Lord's Sabbath day, which is from Friday sundown to the day begins. Let's go to Genesis, right? For those who doesn't know, who don't know, right? Go to the book of Genesis, chapter 1. Right, that day, this is the book. And verse 4. And God saw the light. So I'm gonna start with verse 3. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness, right? He said I divided the, so it's different, right? Darkness, that's why there's always two sides, right? There's right, there's good, and there's bad. There's negative, there's positive, right? There's left, there's right. You go up, you go down, right? There's always two sides. So he says God divided the light from the darkness, right? So they separated. The light is to rule during the day, and the darkness is for the night, which is the moon shines the light during on the night, stack it during the night, and the sun comes out during the day. It's darkness, right? And it says, and here goes the point. And God called the light day, right? And the darkness he called night, right? So he said he called the light day, right? Because what it's bright light. Everything is, you will see everything. Everything is, there's a lot of light. The sun is out. The sun is shining right during the day. But when nighttime comes, the moon comes in. The lesser light, right, which is called dark, right? And it says, here goes the point. And the first day, right? We say when it means it says the evening and the morning was the first day. That means when the sun set, for example, let's say Monday night. Let's say it's Monday. When the sun set on Monday, as soon as the sun set, it's according to Yahweh Shem according to the Bible, right? Once the sun set, that's when the next day begins. That's when your other day comes in. It's not 12 o'clock midnight, how the Shoko white man put it, right? Because that's not what the Most High say. And we call big God rather than men, right? But the the program is to know that the day begins at midnight. When the at midnight a.m., that's when the next day begins. But that's that's not the truth. The truth is the day begins when the sun goes down, and then it goes into the morning. So that's why it says the Sabbath is from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. That's when the new day begins, right? Because that's the new day according to the Most High is not 12 a.m. Right? That's the white man. In the evening, that means your Tuesday is coming in. It's already Tuesday, right? So that's why it says Friday sundown the Sabbath begins because once the sun set, it's automatically Saturday according to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. And that's who we serve, and that's who we ought to be God rather than men, like I said. Right? So once the sun set on Friday, your Sabbath begins. And then what? It ends on Friday, it sets like it ends on Saturday night because what the sun set on Friday night. That means it's on Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Right? That's why we say we cannot buy, we cannot sell, we cannot do all these things because what the day begins according to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Mashakum Yahushai, the evening and the morning were the first day. Right? So that's why the day comes in the evening, the new day. So I can bear with me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Okay. Right, Salakia. So, well, the first day, right? So that means that's when the new day begins. That's why the Sabbath is from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, right? That's what, and that's it. That's it, right? From Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, right? So let's go back to Exodus, Salakia. Let's go back to Exodus. What the Lord say? Salakia, what the Lord say? Remember the Sabbath day now to Saturday sundown, right? Prepare thyself, right? Do what you gotta do before the sun goes down on Friday night, because what? That day is separate. It's different from your regular days when you're at work, when you're running your errands, right? When you're out there doing groceries, whatever you do, you cannot do these things on the Sabbath day, right? And that's what the Lord said, and that's what we have to obey, right? We ought to obey God rather than men, right? So keep it holy, right? And when he says to keep it holy, it doesn't mean you gotta start dancing, playing the drums, right? Blowing up the tree, got some demons on you, jumping up and down. It's not holy. That holy doesn't go like what the Christians say it is. How they do in the churches, right? Being holy is being separate. Being holy is being righteous. That's because when you're righteous, you separated because what? You're not doing what the world is doing, and the world is all about wickedness. Masha come shy holy, right? He's different, right? He's the King of Kings. He's a lace, right? He's perfect, right? So that's what he says, holy. That's why you got that Lord said you got to be like, you got to walk in His ways, follow His ways. That means you got to be holy. You got to be separate, just like the Sabbath is a different day than other days during the week. Because what? It's a whole not doing what you want, not watching your own show, your TV shows, not playing 2K, PS5, Xbox, and all these things that you do, right? Now watching YouTubers, what they do, YouTubers how they call it, right? You know, you're going around, you're doing things. You cannot be doing your own thing on the Sabbath day, right? Let me read that again. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, right? And do all thy work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, nor thy son, thy cattle, nor stranger that is poor, and seek sea. It's like it, and the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Right? So that day you gotta treat that day holy, right? As another precept for the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashem Mashiach Yahushua. Right? Let's go to the book of Leviticus, Leviticus chapter 26 and verse 2. All right. All right, we gotta remember the Sabbath day, right? There's the book of Exodus, chapter 26 and verse 2. Ye shall keep my Sabbaths. What the Lord say? Ye shall keep my Sabbaths, right? The Lord say you shall keep it, not doing what you do on Exodus chapter 8. It says remember. You gotta remember it, that the Sabbath is coming up on Friday night, so you gotta prepare. But he's telling you that here he says you gotta keep the Sabbaths, right? There's a difference between remembering it and keeping it, right? Remembering it is okay. You know, today's Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. Okay, by the time you check it, Friday's here, the sun's going down. You know, I gotta do what I gotta do. You gotta remember. Okay, remember to buy this. I gotta remember to do that. Remember to send this back. Remember to pay this bill, pay that bill. Remember to clean my house. Remember to prepare my food, vacuum my house, clean my room. Whatever we gotta do, that's what you gotta remember before the Sabbath comes in. Whatever you gotta do, that's righteousness. But the Sabbath is not watching TikTok all day. That's not keeping the Sabbath. That's doing your own pleasure, right? That's doing your own pleasure. But he said, "He shall keep my Sabbath." Keeping the Sabbath is what? Examining yourself, reading the scriptures, studying the precepts, right? See where you need to increase. You know, praying to Yahweh Bashim Shai for mercy, for forgiveness, right? To blot out all your sins, right? To give you the spirit to endure to the end, whatever that comes in front of you, right? Affliction, pain, suffering, right? Praying that the Most High take not the Holy Spirit from you in His last days, right? Praying for increasing your faith, praying for more mercy, right? Praying to love, have more patience, right? Praying for the elect out there. These are the things that you could be doing on the Sabbath day, right? The hand teaching the word to the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? The lordship of the house of Israel. That's they were doing these things on the Sabbath day. You're keeping the Sabbath day holy, right? Having a positive mindset, right? So you're just serving the Most High, right? These are the things that shows that you keep the Sabbath day. Doing these things on the Sabbath, right? So you wouldn't go and break the Sabbath day, right? So that's how you keep the Sabbath. Like, that's how you keep the Sabbath of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right? And Hashem Yahushua, right? That's how you connect with your power, right? Your God, your creator, your father, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? Especially on the Sabbath day. We're supposed to be doing that every day, but right now we're talking about the Lord's holy day, right? The Sabbath, the seventh day of the week, right? And reverence my sanctuary. I am the Lord. That's how you keep the Sabbath, right? You could remember the Sabbath, but that doesn't. Some people remember the Sabbath, but they don't keep it, right? They prepare the food, they do the hot water, they prepare the meal, the sandwiches, the salads, you know, they buy the juice and everything. Yeah, you remember the Sabbath day, you remember to do all these things. But when that day comes in, you're watching TV, you're watching Family Feud, right? You're watching your favorite TV show, playing games, right? But doing that, you're not keeping You remember to do other things, but you're not keeping it right now. That's why you gotta remember. So it's best to find congregation. You preach, hang around righteous brothers, people that want to serve Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right? Your righteous brothers, right? And it says, if you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and do them, then I will give you rain in due season, and the land shall heal her increase, and the trees of the field shall suck, and the tree of the field shall yield their fruit, right? So keep the Sabbath day holy, right? Straight up. Let's go to another precept. Let's go to the book. So like here. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5. So like here. Right, let's go to the book of Sabbath day holy. Right? Five goes by fast. We just have was forever, but hey, the day gotta go by. Right? Let's just get that. Let's go to the book. Let's go so like I went verse. Bear with me. Yeah. This is the book. Chapter 5 that again. Keep the Sabbath day to sanctify it, as the Lord thy God have commanded thee. Right? So the Lord commanded us. It's not a choice, right? It's not, oh, should I do it? Maybe I'm gonna do it next week. I'm gonna keep this out. You gotta do it. It's a command. That's what command means. You have to do it. The Lord didn't give you option. Keep my Sabbath day, or else what? You're gonna die. You're gonna eventually. I mean, the Lord will judge you right there and there. It could be a week later, a month later, 2 days later, 3 years later, or 5 years later. But you're gonna get judged if you keep on breaking the Sabbath day willfully, right? And you're not listening to the Lord's command. But the Lord said, I commanded thee. Right? So you have to do it. We as Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American men, women, and child, we gotta keep the Lord's day. Right? It's a very important day. Right? He says 6 days shall unto all thy work. Right? You have to do what you gotta do, run your errands before the Sabbath day comes in. Because you don't want to be caught up doing things that you're not supposed to be doing on the Sabbath. Right? He says, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maid servant, nor thy ox, nor thine ass, nor any of thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates, that thy manservant and thy maidservant may rest as well as thou. Right? So it says nobody's supposed to be working in your household. Right? Even your manservant and thy maid servant may rest as well as thou. Right? When you rest on the Sabbath day, your people are supposed to be resting, your household. Right? The people that work for you, they're not supposed to be working on the Sabbath. Right? And they're not supposed to be doing it because that means you're going off. Right? It's like saying, like, it's a Sabbath day. You cannot buy and sell, but you're sending somebody that don't keep the Sabbath day to buy the item for you, and you saying that he wasn't the one that actually bought it. But still, you send somebody else do it. That you think that doesn't mean you think you're not going to get judged because of that. Because what? You're making your own brother or sister go against Yahweh Shem Shai. And what? Their blood is on your hand. Right? Especially if they don't know better. Right? Especially if that person doesn't know about the Sabbath day, but yes, still you still want that burger, that favorite food that you didn't have time to get before the sun set, but you want to send somebody of the world, that's your family or whatever, your friend, to get it for you because they don't keep the Sabbath day, so that they could buy it, so you can buy it and they could bring it for you and eat. That you want, that you cannot get away with that, right? That's you still breaking the Sabbath day straight up. You still breaking the Sabbath day. You still breaking the Sabbath day. What? You send that person to purchase that food, and you know better, and that person know better, and that person blood is on your hand, and you got they shall thy labor unto all. Thou shalt not do any work, not sweeping the backyard, vacuuming the house, washing dishes, going on the laundry, right? Any work, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, nor thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy ox, nor thy ass, nor any of thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates, that thy maidservant and thy maidservant may rest as well as thou. It says, I'm gonna read verse 15. And remember that thou was a servant in the land of Egypt, right? We were slaves, bondmen, and bondwomen, right? And that the Lord thy God brought thee out thence through a mighty hand and by a stretched out arm. Therefore, the Lord thy God commanded thee to keep the Sabbath day. It's like it, bear with me 1 second. Right, so like, I can read that again. And remember that thou was a servant in the land of Egypt, right, slaves? And that the Lord thy God brought thee out thence through a mighty hand and by a strange out arm. Therefore, the Lord thy God commanded thee to keep the Sabbath day, right? So we got to keep the Sabbath day of the Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, right? It's not a choice. It's not an option as an Israelite. You have to keep the Lord's day, or you will be put to death, right? Let's get another precept. Let's get another precept. Let's go to the book of Nehemiah, chapter 13. Right? So you got to keep the Sabbath day. It's not a joke, right? It's not to be played around with. That's what the Lord said, right? So let's no, so like, let's go to the book of Isaiah. So like here, let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 56. Right? Let's go to the mighty book of Isaiah. Right? So we, right, as Hebrew Israelites, right, the chosen people of God's place in the American man, woman, and child, we have to obey the commandments of the Lord, right? That's our heritage. That's our culture, right? We don't care about what men say, what family members say, what coworkers say. We just don't care, right? We just don't care because who are they, right? We gotta fear the one that could kill the flesh and the soul, right? And serve the one that could do that, which is our Creator. All right, and there's nothing better to do than to serve the Most High, especially in the times we're living in right now. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 56. So let's go to verse 6. So like, I'm gonna start from verse. I'm on verse 2, but sure. So like, yeah. The book. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 52. So like Isaiah 56 and verse 2. Blessed is the man that doeth this. Right. The Lord said, "Blessed is the man." Right. Being blessed, I'm gonna say that being blessed is not going to church on Sundays every Sunday. Right. Being blessed is not right. That's not being blessed. Being blessed is keeping the laws and commandments of the Most High. Being blessed is not hearing your word like you want to hear your own words, right? Being blessed is serving the Most High, fearing the Most High. That's when you be blessed. Let's read that. Isaiah 56 and verse 2. Blessed is the man that doeth this. So let's see. He said, blessed is the man that doeth this. Let's see what do you have to do that the Most High consider you blessed, right? If you want to be blessed in the eyes of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Let's see what you gotta do according to the Most High, according to the scriptures, not according to TD Jakes, right? A Crawford Dollar, whoever these pastors, right? These false preachers was set up is not what they say, it's what the Hawabashin outside say, right? It's just blessed is the man that doeth this, and the son of man that layeth hold on it, that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, and keepeth his hand from doing any evil. Right? It says, blessed is the man that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, and keepeth his hand from doing evil. Right? What does it mean by that? Keepeth from so it says that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, and keepeth his hand from doing any evil. Right? Polluting the Sabbath is doing wickedness on the Sabbath. Right? You've been watching TV, doing all the kind. You on websites, right? Like you on websites, you lusting, fornication, right? Evil spirits, lust, right? Talking about worldly things, right? Right? Not studying, right? These are things you polluting the Sabbath day, right? You polluting the Sabbath day. You breaking the Sabbath day, right? You're not being holy, right? You're not being righteous. You're not listening to the Lord's command, right? Because He commanded us to keep the Sabbath day, right? He didn't ask us. He told us to do it, right? And keepeth his hand from doing any evil, from stealing, committing adultery, lusting after another brother's wife, right? Hating your brother in your heart. These are doing evil things on the Sabbath day. Because what? Evil, being evil or being wicked, is going against the commandments of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Not fearing the Most High as an Israelite and not listening to his ways, right? Because that's what the Lord said we got to do. Just fear him and keep his commandments. That's the whole duty of man, right? But you're not doing that. You being evil on the Sabbath day. You're doing wickedness by not reading, by not praying, right? Buying what you want, you're breaking this up, you're buying and selling, right? You're talking of your own words, you're talking about wickedness. That's doing evil on the Sabbath day. But once you're reading and praying, that's what it says. He keepeth his hand from doing any evil. So once you're praying, you're on the highways and byways, you birds, right? You bringing the lordship of the house of Israel back to Yahweh, Basham Mashiach Yahushai, the true culture, the true heritage, right? How they're supposed to live, how they're supposed to dress, what they're supposed to eat, right? What nation, who they're supposed to mingle with, who they're not supposed to be mingled with, what customs is not to be celebrating, right? Not following these heathens, right? Obeying their husband, right? Children obeying their parents, right? These are the things that we're supposed to be doing on the Sabbath day. That's what keeps us from our hand from doing any evil, right? Reverencing the Sabbath day, breaking the scriptures to your family, right? You chopping it up with brothers with scriptures, right? You turning up in righteousness. These are doing righteous things. But you talking back to your husband on the Sabbath day, right? Right? Not prepared. You're not doing what you're supposed to on the Sabbath. You're washing dishes. That's doing evil. Because what? You're going against the scriptures of the Most High, right? Watching lewd sites, nasty sites, whatever. These are being that's being evil on the Sabbath day, and the Lord will get up with you, right? If you don't get, if you don't check yourself, if you don't examine yourself. So that's why you say you got to keep your hands from doing evil. That's why you got to be. That's why another reason why you got to be occupied in His Word, right? That's why you got to always be occupied in His Word, right? Praying, fasting, studying, watching the video, taking notes. These things keep you from being evil. Listening to righteous music, right? Bringing the spirit of the Most High into your house. Blasting righteous music, right? Breaking down scriptures to your children, right? To your wives, right? These things prevent you from doing evil. Because what? You're serving the Most High. You fear the Most High. What He said to do, right? Let's get another precept for the spirit. Let's go to the book, right? You cannot do evil on the Sabbath. Yeah, you could do good. It's good to it's great to do good on the Sabbath. Right? Let's go to the book. I believe that's verse. Let's go to Matthew chapter 12 and 10. Matthew chapter 12 and verse 10. So here. This is the book. This is the book of Matthew chapter 12 and verse 10. So book of Matthew. Yeah. This is the book of Matthew chapter 12 and verse 10. It says, and behold, there was a man which had his hand withered, and they asked him, saying, is it lawful that they might accuse him? And he said unto them, when a man shall there be among you, second, let me read that again. And he said unto them, what man shall there be among you, and shall have one sheep, and if it fall into a pit on the Sabbath day, will he not lay hold on it and lift it out? How much then how much then is a man better than a sheep? Wherefore it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath days, right? So it's lawful to do good on the Sabbath day, right? It's lawful to do good, right? That is, yeah, like it says, if you see a sheep fall in a pit, whatever, that doesn't mean you cannot help it, right? That's do good on the Sabbath day, right? The Most High, remember when Yahushua, there's the blind on the Sabbath, there was a blind man, and he couldn't see, he was blind. So Yahushua, he took the it's like the earth, right, the dirt, right, how it's like for lack of better terms, the dirt, he put spit, the saliva, he he mixed it up, right, he put it in his eye, and what he could have seen again, right? That's doing good on the Sabbath, right? The Most High, that's doing good, right? You're helping a brother out, right? That's doing good on the Sabbath. But there's a difference from doing good and evil, right? So that's what that means. You could do good on the Sabbath, right? But breaking the Sabbath day willfully, you're gonna get judged, right? You're gonna get caught up with straight up. Let's get another precept. Let's go to the book. Slovakia. To So like, let's go to the book of let's go to the book of Mark, chapter 20. Mark chapter 2. Chapter 2 and verse 27. 2 and verse 27. And he said unto them, the Sabbath, verse 27. And he said unto them, the Sabbath was made for men. So the Sabbath was made for us, right? Especially for we Hebrew Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanic, Native American men, women, and child, right? Guess what? We need that rest, right? We need that rest, right? Working from for all the week, going on the plantation 9 to 5, right? For these devils, right? Working hard. We need that day of rest. But yes, so you see a lot of people this on this Sabbath day, especially they don't have to. They want more money, right? They want to chase that bag. Yo, stay home, read the scriptures, find a congregation and enjoy the Sabbath day. Rest on the Sabbath day, right? Because what that bag won't save you at the end of the day, right? Because you, like I said, you have brothers, their jobs, they don't have to work on the Sabbath, but yes, they want extra money, right? They want to buy that new mansion, that new car, that new PS5, right? And guess what? The Lord will kill you for that. Because what? You cannot be breaking the Sabbath day for vanity, for stuff that won't last forever, stuff that's going to be done away with when the Yahushua comes back. You got to focus on what's to come, right? Right? The spiritual things, right? The kingdom of the Most High, righteousness, right? Peace, right? All these things we're looking for in His last days, right? But I'm gonna read that again. It says, and he said unto them, the Sabbath was made for men, and not men for the Sabbath, right? So we were not made for the Sabbath was made for us, right? And it says, therefore the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath, right? So you gotta keep the Sabbath. It's a very important day. We gotta keep the day of Yahweh Bashim Shai, right? And you cannot buy, you cannot sell, you cannot cook on the Sabbath day, you cannot use no microwave, no toaster, no, you cannot do your own pleasure, you cannot do any work on the Sabbath day, no buying and selling, no speaking your own words, not going out, doing anything you're supposed to be doing in the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Rasha. You're supposed to always be in the spirit, but we're talking about the Sabbath day, right? You gotta do what you gotta do in righteousness, right? So when you read all the scriptures, you got when you read Isaiah, it's like Isaiah 58 and 13. Yeah, we went for Exodus 20 and 8, Exodus 16 and 23. When you read Exodus 35 and 2, Nehemiah chapter 10, Leviticus 23 and 3, Deuteronomy 5 and 15. All these precepts shows you what you can and what you cannot do on the Lord's holy day, which is the Sabbath day, the seventh day of the week, from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. The Sabbath day is not Sunday, according to the Most High. I'm gonna tell you straight up, right? That's what men say, but according to the Holy Scriptures, because when you look at it, the first day of the week, according to the calendar today, the first day of the week is Sunday. So obviously, the seventh day it's going to be Saturday, but Saturday begins actually from Friday night. So it's from Friday time, no buying, no selling, no cooking, no not doing your own pleasure, no sex on the Sabbath, right? Not getting drunk on the Sabbath, doing all kind of madness on the Sabbath, no playing games, talking about worldly things, watching TV shows, right? These things you have to put away, right? Because what? It's a holy day. It's a separate day, right? It's like right? It's a holy day. It's a Sabbath day of the Yahweh Bashim Shah, right? And we gotta remember. So I gotta remember to keep the Sabbath day holy, right? Keep it holy. Let's get for precept on that. Let's go to the book. Let's get that 6. Let's go to the book of Exodus. This is the book, and it reads this. And he says, this is that which the Lord has said. Tomorrow is the rest of the Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which he will bake today, and seeth that which that he will thieve, and that which remaineth over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. Right? So he said you have to bake what you gotta bake before the Sabbath. So whatever you got planned for the Sabbath to eat, right, during the Sabbath, right, you gotta prepare before the sun goes down on Friday. So if the sun goes down around 9 p.m., before 9 o'clock, now say before 8:30, yourself enough to you should make sure that all you gotta do in the house is done already. Right? So when the Sabbath comes in, you're resting, right? You're reading your scriptures, you're watching video, you're relaxing, you're meditating, right? Everything is done with. You clean the house already. You vacuum, you clean, you wash the dishes, you clean the backyard, you clean your car, you bought the fruits, whatever, you run the errands, you pay your bills already before the sunset, right? So that will keep you on point, on track, so that you won't break the Sabbath day, right? So and especially you bake. So if you guys you want to bake, cook this or whatever, you put it on the side in a warm spot, and then next morning you eat it on the same day, right? You could sandwiches, like I said, you could do your cereal, right? So that's why it says you gotta prepare, bake. That's what you have to bake. You're gonna eat on the Sabbath. Prepare it before the Sabbath comes in, right? Let's get Nehemiah. We're gonna get this one, right? We're gonna go for another precept right after that, right? In his last days, right? This is the book. And if the people of the land bring ware or any victuals on the Sabbath day, meaning clothing, merchandise, stuff like that, to to sell, that we would not, I'm read that again, that we would not buy it of them on the Sabbath. That's the key point. We would not buy it because what is the Sabbath day? Way before during the week before Sabbath comes in. And he says on a holy day, which is high holy days like Passover, the tabernacles and stuff. You gotta treat it like Sabbath. You still can buy and sell. That's why it says of every tenth, right? So you can't. You're not supposed to buy and sell on the Sabbath, right? So no buying, no selling, no sex, all these things you can't do on the Sabbath. If you do that, you're breaking the laws and commandments, and you're going against Yahweh Bashim Yahweh, right? So with that, okay, one more precept. We're gonna close out, right, with the classic. Right, we're gonna close out with the classic for the spirit power of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh. Chapter 12 and verse 13. And he says, let's say the point. What's the point here in the land of the living as Hebrew Israelites? Right? what we were saying to do. We were not saying let's say who wants this place to go on. That means you're not in the spirit of the Most High. I'm gonna tell you straight up, right? Because what whether or not this place got to go, because what this place is too much oppressive, right? That's one first. That's the one reason why this place got to go. But there's plenty of reasons. But the point is, this place got to go, and we want it to go. We want the downfall of the so-called white man, Esau, right? So our kingdom could rule, right? So our people stop being oppressed, right? Day in and day out. And what this place is wicked, right? It's the land of confusion, right? You could do what you want, be what you want. All this is madness, folly, disgusting, right? And the most I don't deal with that, right? I'm gonna read that again. The purpose is to fear God, right? Fear God. It didn't say fear the so-called white man. It didn't say fear men. It says fear Yahweh and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. Fear the Most High and keep his commandments, which means it's saying fear the Lord and keep the Sabbath day holy. Because what? That's part of the commandments. That's part of the commandments. And that's a very important day. Because what? This is our whole duty as the Hebrew Israelites. One of the commandments we gotta keep, like we're talking about, bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Right? So there's nothing to hide. Right? So all your sins and stuff, it's better to confess your sins than to hide it. Right? Because it's gonna be worse for you, according to Yahweh Yahushua. Right? Right? So with that, no buying and selling on the Sabbath, no sex on the Sabbath day. Right? Keep the Sabbath day holy as Hebrew Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American, men, women, keep the Sabbath day from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Because what? That's the seventh day, according to the Holy Bible, according to the Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Right? We got to keep that day holy, right? Congregate, fellowship with brothers, and see in the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. With that, I'm going to give Mosai will so like Mosai will brothers and sisters will edify for the spirit, keep the Sabbath day holy, right? All praise to Yahweh Bashim Yahushua for the Sabbath day, right? Shabbat Shalom to the church of Israel out there, for the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bashim Mashiach Yahushua, right? Again, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bashim Mashiach Yahushua, right? Peace and blessings to the church of Israel, right? The elect out there, right? For the four corners of the earth, right? Most I will know edify, Brother Benjamin Youngwolf. Most I will now be back for another video. Kwam Yashala. Shalom.